This is such a pleasure to have you joining me here on the Road to Rock. You are on the Road to Rock, so congratulations to you, and
Awesome.
certainly for us to have you. It's a pleasure. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm just, with Zoom, you just never know if it's going to work or not. So I'm happy we're connected.
We are connected. That's what's great. I wish I would have invested in this about 2 years ago. That would have been a good
Yeah,
move. I'm never out in front of anything. I'm a follower. I just got to be honest. Well, it's great to
man.
have you, Kenneth. This is great. I kind of get you at a good time here, seeing as that you have an album coming out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
It's
Yeah,
called
man.
Keys to the Kingdom. And man, I don't know if the world's ready for this because this is one badass album. I'm so excited for people to hear it. Of course, people have been catching up. They've heard the single that you put out, but what the excitement level right now for this album release? You've first album came out in 2002. Here we are, 2022. How excited are you for this thing?
Man, I'm excited to have this thing out and moving because we recorded this back in right before the world blew up, right before the pandemic and all that, out in Joshua Tree, California, at Dave Ketching's studio. Dave was a really cool guy that's in the Eagles of Death Metal, and he was in the Queens of Stone Age, and they have this really cool studio out there, man. Just super, vibe, just bare bones kind of place out in Joshua Tree. And me and Chris Cano and Brandon Owens got together and we did this. And we did it all in like 4 days,
Yeah.
and it was awesome, and I like to just do 2 or 3 takes and really kind of like try to get, capture lightning in a bottle and all that stuff. And so, man, and then we were planning on releasing, and then all this stuff happened with the world and the virus and all that stuff. And so, man, it's nice to have it out. It's and moving, and just, I'm excited to have new music out there, man.
Well, it does. And it kind of reflects, I think your music is very visual. It reflects a time and a place. And that's what I love about music. And that's certainly the case here. Do you believe, you think being kind of doing this album, recording it the way you did in the place that you did, are you kind of affected by your environment where you're at when you're writing and recording? Does that come into play at all? Does that kind of take over? Does the mood kind of take over the album that you're making, the environment there?
Absolutely. I mean, as much as, everything, the vibe, but also the sound, like I grew up down south, man, and
yeah,
I'm in Gainesville, outside of Gainesville, Florida right now. And, Florida, Bama, Georgia, Mississippi, the sound is thick,
yes.
and the air is thick right now. Today it's 86 degrees, and which is way early for that. But, and it affects things. I remember when the first time I went out, and I lived out in the desert in Yucca Valley next to Joshua Tree for a while. And I was messing with my amp, and I was like, I'm playing a Les Paul and an old Tweed amp. And I was like, man, it doesn't sound right. It sounds thin, and, it's the air, and that it's the, lack of humidity and the sun and everything. And it's funny. It's like, you got to get used to it, and you have to, adjust to it. But it definitely, the vibe of that place, if you're not affected by the vibe of Rancho de la Luna out there, man, you got a hole in your soul, as Albert King would say. But it's a cool place, man.
Well, I can attest to what you're saying. I've in fact been to a Florida Gators game in Gainesville, and don't get too excited. Well, don't get too excited. See, I'm a Missouri fan. It was a couple years ago. We came down there and won. But
I remember that.
What a great. Gainesville is one of my favorites. I'll tell you, Kenneth, just off the rails here. You seem like a cool guy. We'll just go off the rails. I was doing an SEC football documentary. I'm from Missouri. So we went to a different SEC town every week for the entire season. And just so happened, my Tigers are playing in Gainesville there. And it was, gosh, you feel it. I've been there in July too. My God, it is thick. It is like, West has humidity. There's nothing like it. But there's a charm to that too, man. It's so,
it really is.
Good stuff.
I'm a huge football fan, especially
Love
college,
it.
man. And we're all, from the Southeast, like we got football and we got music.
That's right.
And, but we didn't do too good this year. But, it's funny because, I'm a Gator fan, and I lived in Alabama for a long time, and the Crimson Tide actually used my song "Welcome to Alabama" when they went out on the field.
Yes,
which was a big thing for me in Alabama. Then everybody in Gainesville was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's cool."
Yeah, you're like, wait a second.
Alabama's always winning, man. So, but yeah, that's, man. I don't know. It definitely. I can't imagine. Like a lot of my mom's family was down here. 110 years ago. I can't imagine no air conditioning and no, well, I can imagine that we didn't have it growing up, but just trying to cook on a wood stove in the middle of July down here when it's 100 degrees, So,
well, I love it though. I love that area. It's something that you have to experience, and I was able to experience because Missouri has been in the Big 12. We joined the SEC in 2012, so I had to like kind of acclimate. And I thought it was places like Oxford, Mississippi, and Athens, Georgia. They all have a character. They're all part of this something that's so much bigger, this SEC thing. And man, it was a tremendous experience. So
totally, man. I mean, I think Gainesville and Athens are sister cities. Some of my mom's family's from up in that part of Georgia, North Georgia, Dahlonega, actually Gainesville, Georgia. And they're kind of similar places in a lot of ways. And it's neat because you got the old South thing, but you have the college. So when I was growing up, man, I mean, there was outside of town here where I'm at, there was a huge bluegrass and gospel thing. But then in town, there was a huge like metal and punk rock, and there'd be a reggae band playing because of the, college. And so it was like a really cool place, to mix a lot of different things. And I don't know, man, when I was growing up here, I couldn't get out fast enough. I moved to Nashville and I was in Austin. But when I come back, it's like, it's a magical place. We have 9 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members from Gainesville, and they're all from like one little part of Gainesville, like Northeast Gainesville, man. You got all the Tom Petty guys.
Yep.
Then Bernie Ledden from the Eagles, Don Felder from the Eagles. They all went to high school together. Steven Stills went to high school here. Bo Diddley lived right down the road from me. Bo Diddley had a hog farm, dude. And you would see him at the gas station in Newberry and in Jonesville on the way to Archer. And I mean, it's just crazy. So everybody in the great country musicians, Chubby Wise and Vassar Clements and all these great, they're the 2 of the greatest fiddle players that ever lived. And this is an interesting place, man. You living in different parts of the country and even different parts of the South. And it's, it's like Missouri. I mean, I dated a girl, her family was from Kennett, and Kennett's totally different than, KC or St. Louis. Like my good friend Scott Leathers, who's probably going to watch this, their family's all from Kansas City, and it's like totally different. And the Florida's like, I mean, I'm up here below Georgia, and it's sort of the original sort of Florida culture. I remember, and it's totally different from Miami or Orlando.
Sure.
Like when I got together with my girlfriend now, I was talking to her. She was in Northern California, and I wasn't kidding. I said, and she didn't know me that well. I said, hold on a second. I got to go charge my phone. I got to go get a gun and a flashlight. She was like, for what? I said, oh, for alligators. I was out on the Swanee, and my dad worked for Fish and Wildlife. We were staying in a cabin out there, and I, and she later on brought that up, and I thought, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, I had to go get a gun and a flashlight, so I didn't step on an alligator. So
yeah, so for but you've lived in California now for a while. What's that been like making that transition? Are you someone that kind of worldly, you can live wherever? Or is it like a shock to you? Because I was just in LA for the Super Bowl, covering the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, my Chiefs didn't make it. They didn't join me there, Kenneth. So it was a little bittersweet, but LA, it's a little different. I love it. I love going, but man, what's the transition been like for you?
Well, they made Inglewood look really good on the preview on this commercials or whatever. I don't know, man. When I moved there, we like everything I had going on at the time. We were out on tour with Lucinda Williams, opening up for her, and we were making a record out there, and everything that I had going on was out of LA. So originally I moved from North Alabama to the desert out there to outside of Joshua Tree. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up living in the Hollywood Hills, like right below the Hollywood sign, like in Beechwood Canyon, the Deep Dell area. Yeah. We had the last house on stilts we rented from this old hippie guy, and our neighbors were literally like Lil Wayne and Eva Longoria and all these people. And we were like in this house that's fallen down, and it was cool, man. That was really cool. And then I ended up living right behind the club, the Whiskey,
West Hollywood.
I mean, literally.
Yep.
He's here. There's a parking lot and
I know exactly.
Jim Morrison used to live in that apartment, like Leonard Cohen. Crazy. Guns N' Roses, they live right next door.
Is that the Motley Crue place too? It was right there.
Right there, man. And like on Clark Street.
Yeah.
And so I lived there, and then we ended up living out in Malibu in this little guest house. And man, it was magical. First couple years, I got to meet, became good friends with Steve Ferrone, and read the rest of the Heartbreakers and Tom Petty and got to hang out with those guys, and they helped shape the sound. And we did all these shows with Blackberry Smoke and ZZ Top and Skinner and stuff. And it was just awesome. And the last couple years was sort of more of a reality because, you know, I'm living out there at this beautiful place and little guest house in Malibu and stuff. And then one of those fires came through and took our place out, and we lost everything.
Wow.
And I got my guitars and amps out, but I lost everything else, man. And so it was like, bam, you know. So environmentally, just like everywhere else, you know, but especially out there, man, you're really facing, you know, whatever it is we're going through, whatever your opinion is on how it's caused or what it's caused. But so it was a great place. It's a great place to be for music and for the vibe and people. There's a lot of expat Southerners there and stuff, like, you know, even in Hollywood, you see like Dwight Yoakam and Billy Bob and all these guys, all, you know, they all congregate together because it's kind of like being in exile or something, you know, like. And so I don't know, man, there's a freedom to it. But it's nice to come from something to bring with you, you know, you know, and have that thing with you all the time. It never really leaves you, you know. So, but it's a really, I had a great time there, and I'm going back. In the last 6 months, I've been going back and forth from here in Gainesville to Alabama, working in the studio, and back out to California. So, man, I just have the experience of playing with all those guys. I grew up in Gainesville. I didn't know anybody in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I met Ron, the bass player, one time, and then moving out there, I got to work with those guys, and you know, and I mean, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't got out of here and you know, done that whole thing. So
well, what's 2022? You know, the album comes out tomorrow. It's tremendous, and I can't wait to see the reaction. It's going to be very positive, I think, from media, from fans. Definitely high marks for me, but whatever that means. What does 22 look like for you as far as live performances go? What do you got lined up? What can we expect on the live end as things get back more to normal? That's a hell of a day to say that, by the way, I guess.
Oh yeah, right. Man, you know,
crazy.
Crazy day. I mean, it's just been one thing after another for everybody. And it's like, no matter how you feel about things or what, you know, what's going on with, you know,
right.
It's been an interesting time to navigate when it comes to all that. It's been, you know, it's like releasing this record. You know, I could have released this record during the pandemic, and it was like, well, man, nobody's listening to rap. I mean, they're worried about, you know, dying. I mean, you know, so or what, you know, or feeding their families or whatever. So, but I mean, things are getting back to normal with that. I mean, with going out and playing, we got some stuff with Blackberry coming up. We got we're gonna do Sturgis. We're gonna do the Daytona or the Tallahassee Bike Week thing that's going on. Summerfest again, the usual festivals and things like that. And man, hopefully all these things happen. And because, you know, just like everybody, I had like 30-40 shows, you know, on the books, and then, you know, COVID happened, and then you're 2 years later, everybody's still trying to get everything back, and it's frustrating for fans, and it's frustrating for, you know, musicians, because live is, I mean, it's just, I love it to, you know, more than anything in the world, man. I mean, I love making music and going out and playing for people, and that whole connection you have with people. And hopefully we get back to normal. And I just talked to Steve Ferroni about an hour ago. He's out playing with John Mayer now, and they were about to play Madison Square Garden, and Steve tested positive for COVID, and he didn't have.
Oh no.
He didn't really have any symptoms, but there he is. Like, you know, you're at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I'd love to play there, you know, and Steve's probably played there with Tom, with Eric Clapton, with, you know, George Harrison. I don't know. He's probably like, oh, we're back again, you know? But anyway, man, what a bummer, you know, to get all the way up there. And so, but he's fine, thank God. But it's just, this thing has to be in a way where everybody's, you know, comfortable about doing it. And everybody has different levels of how they feel about it. And, you know, we want to be able to protect everybody and have everybody feel good and be out there playing, man. I'm anxious to get back out. You know, we went and we did Sturgis, and we did a bunch of stuff, and nobody got sick, and everything was great. And there was no, you know, people were so happy to be out. There was like 1 million people at Sturgis, and there was no fights. I mean, at a bike
See?
festival, nobody, guys with big old, guys with their bellies hanging out with machine guns were hugging each other. It's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Sturgis, Sturgis don't give a damn. And I love it. I've been there before. It's something different. There's something about it. I love that area of the country. I love live music, and I didn't realize how much I did until this happened. I go to 30, 40 shows a year.
Yeah.
All this goes by. And I mean, that first time that I think it's funny enough, the first band I think I saw after almost a year was Great White and Slaughter. Okay.
Holy moly. Yeah.
The first chords come out. I'm just like, I can't live without this. I don't know how I ever did. Right. I mean, as a musician, do you feel the same way? I mean, as a fan, as a musician standing up on stage in the crowd, either way for you, do you kind of feel that same way, that it's just like, it's an energy that you can't replace with anything?
Absolutely, man. There's nothing like it. There's no, I don't know. I mean, like, I just full disclosure, I've been sober for 13 years now.
Awesome.
It used to not be. And none of that stuff would ever come close to the feeling that you get, or any other, there's just something about playing live and communicating with people. I mean, I don't know how it is for big pop stars that have that are doing other people's songs, and I don't know, maybe it's like a job to them, but it's the greatest thing in the world to me, man, to be able to communicate with people through something else that, like I said, that's not necessarily even it's more of like a spiritual connection, man. Like you say, you heard that guitar when you went to that show, you're like, yeah. I remember being on stage at Sturgis, and I had a drummer from Alabama, Trey Allred, and my buddy Wes Davis, who played with me years ago, and he had a kid and went off and did the family thing for a while. Now he's back with me. He's from Mississippi, from Columbus. And I look back, and, we're playing, and, we're getting into the first song, and people are getting into it. And I thought, oh man, yeah, I can breathe. I feel like, and so I don't know, man. I think last year really showed a lot of people what's important to them. And all of our ancestors have had to go through this. There's always been something that was dangerous out there, whether it was a plague or a virus or a war or whatever was going on. And, they all got through it, and we'll all get through it too,
We do. We are, humans definitely have some resiliency. I think we've all had to exercise that, and maybe there's some silver lining there. I want to talk about the single "Falling Again," because that is just such a great song. It really captures such a vibe for me. Again, when it comes to music, man, I'm a Kiss fan. I'm a visual learner. Okay, let's put it that way.
My manager Doug is a huge Kiss fan, and he's the executive producer of Jimmy Kimmel, so he's got a lot of friends. One of his good friends that he goes out a couple times a year with, and to see Kiss if they're playing or whatever, is Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks is the biggest
huge
Kiss fan. I didn't know this. Doug told me this. Well, I said, well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Garth did a great cover it's a Kiss kind of tribute album, artists contributing songs. Garth does a great cover. It's on YouTube, of Hard Luck Woman. It's awesome.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, you're right. And so that to me, visually, it's almost like I have to feel an album. I have to hear it, and it's got to, all the senses almost have to be covered. Okay. So Falling Again, it does it for me. Your music does it for me. It puts me in a time and a place. That's what I said. It's so important. This song, just kind of talk about the genesis of this. This is kind of the single you went with. Why'd you go with this? And I think this is a good song to maybe carry people into checking out the whole album. 10 tracks, and it's going to be killer.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's something that I wrote. I started writing in California when I was living actually that place behind the Whiskey in West Hollywood. And I kind of had that riff. And then a couple of days later, I thought of a line, and then I just sat down and got, sort of got the whole thing, really, which is great, when that happens and you just get the whole thing. And when I started working on this album, it was right after Tom Petty had passed away, and went over to Steve Ferrone's studio in Tarzana in the Valley, and he brought Mike Campbell over there. And I didn't know Mike Campbell. I'd met him before, but man, one of my heroes, one of the greatest guitar players ever. And the three of us sat there and we got the first 4 or 5 songs together. And it was like the pre-production for the album, unofficial pre-production, I guess. And we cut that, and the original demo of it, and Mike was doing like these little licks around what I was doing, and he was going to produce the record, and he ended up getting a gig with Fleetwood Mac and not being able to produce it. But I kind of went off of what he was doing on the guitar and came up with those licks, on that. And so that was neat to be able to go off of what he was doing. but man, it's a rocker, and it moves, and it's, it's something that it's not hard to get into, I think, and it's just one of those things. It's I don't know, it's got the feel for me, and it's got the feel of what we do live. And I think it's a good one to, they said, what song do you want to work on, radio and stuff like that. So definitely that one first, So.
It's tremendous. And I'm a huge Mike Campbell fan, by the way.
Yeah,
huge,
man.
Died in the Wool. Like, a lot of people don't realize this. He wrote Boys of Summer, right?
Absolutely.
So passed it on to Don Henley. I've always wondered what it would, or what that would have been like as a Tom Petty track. Definitely different, very different, right? But Mike's a legend.
You bring it to Tom first, apparently. And
he
Tom,
said no.
Tom's like, I don't know. Tom, like, he was a funny dude, man. I got to be around him a little bit the last few years of his life, and he's, like my hero for forever and Dave, and he was a funny guy when he knew what he was going to do and what he wasn't going to do, and maybe you should have done that one. That was a huge.
I'd like to have at least heard a demo of what that would have sounded like. I don't know. I feel like the last 6 or 7 years, kind of a sobering thought, but man, I don't know. Just me personally, I've almost been at the forefront of some final performances here. This is kind of crazy. So maybe you should hope I don't see you live, but man, I saw to this day, the last AC/DC show with Brian Johnson. They haven't played together since Kansas City in 2015. Last Twisted Sister show in America, saw it. Motley Crue, last show ever. LA was there. They're coming back. I'll be there this summer again. I'm an unabashed fan, whatever. And then I saw Tom Petty. It was about 2 months before he passed here on his final tour in Kansas City. So like, I don't know. I don't know what it is about me, but it's almost like a sobering thought. Like I'm only 38. So I grew up with all these heroes, all these musical heroes, and most of them are all older than me. You're right. It's a sobering thought. Your heroes don't last forever. And that's a hard thought to live
especially in rock and roll, man.
Yes, sir. I mean, that's a given, I guess.
What was crazy was I was supposed to go. My girlfriend went to the last show. He was Lucinda was opening, and me and her were supposed to go. And I had to fly back to Alabama because my good friend and producer that I worked with for years and years that produced the Allman Brothers and like a father to me, Johnny Sandlin, he passed away. Yeah. And so I was at his funeral, and she got to go and photograph. She's a photographer, music photographer, and a musician as well. And she went and it was amazing. And the last thing they played was American Girl, and she sent me a video, and they had like the video, and it was like, oh my, I used to cut school and go there. They showed like out here in Alachua outside of Gainesville, and it was just amazing. And I guess Steve said, Tom really didn't hang out with people too much anymore, just his wife, Dana, and a few people. But after that show, I guess he had everybody over to his hotel room and had this kind of big shindig and get together. And that was only a few days later, man, that he passed. So, it's just, what a loss, what a heavy loss for everybody. I mean, I got to be around him, and he let me use Steve on drums at Summerfest in Milwaukee. And the only time he ever let Steve play with anybody else ever in 30 years was with Bo Diddley, man. And so I felt pretty awesome about that, but he, all those guys, I mean, Mike, Benmont's awesome, and Ron's awesome. And I got to hang out with Scott Thurston a whole lot. And man, played with Iggy and Jackson Brown and all these people. And got a lot, I don't know, that guy too, like they're not afraid to tell you how it is, You don't use that guitar on this. What are you doing? Get a Strat out on this one, and it's like, okay. I mean, they know what they're doing,
Well, so. I tell you, we're talking with the Kenneth Brian, the Kenneth Brian Band. The website, guys, is the KennethBrianBand.com. That's where you can get all the latest updates, the album. What's the best way for people that want to pick this album up? It comes out tomorrow. By the time this airs, it will be tomorrow. It's today. It comes out today, folks. That's the magic of editing. It comes out today. Well, what's the best way for people to get a hold of the album? To the website?
And all the usual things, iTunes, Apple Music, whatever they call it now. They keep changing the name of everything.
That's true.
Amazon, wherever you get your music, Spotify. Not that we make much of a Spotify, or you can get one of these old school guys right here. Look at this.
Nice.
So we got these for promo and stuff, and to send out to people. And because there's a lot of people that still only take CDs, but we were playing at Summerfest a couple years ago, and this little girl that was like 15 years old was looking at all the and my guy that was selling merch. He goes, "Oh, that's the latest one right there." And she picks it up and she looks at it and she goes, "What is it?"
Yeah.
And she said, he goes, "Oh, it's a CD." And she's like, "Oh, what do you like?" You know, I mean, the music to her goes to her phone. So
right.
You can get it, you know, I mean, you can get it everywhere. You know, go to my website or go to, you know, wherever you get music, it'll be everywhere, man. And I'll be happy to send anybody the old school if they want from my website.
Love it.
We're all going to have vinyl out pretty soon. Everything, because of the pandemic, everything's really backed up, like waiting on things like, you know, like you're waiting on your Justin boots or your Nikes or whatever you wear. We're waiting on the vinyl to, you know, clear on down the line. So
the kids might know that more. I know a high schooler that has starting a vinyl collection. He might know that more than CDs, which is a crazy mind F of a situation. And kind of cool.
It's awesome. You know, the first guitar amp I ever had when I was like 11 years old was my dad's old record player. And we just put a 1/4-inch jack in it, and I could plug into it and I could play a record and I could play along to it, whether it was, you know, Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison, or Black Sabbath, or whatever my dad had. You know, my dad was into all kinds of stuff, man, mostly blues, BB King, but you know, but it was cool because I could plug right into that sucker and I could kind of tune to it and then play to it. And so, man, yeah, vinyl's cool. I mean, it's like cutting on tape, you know, it's got a thing, it's got a vibe, and you know, you can't it's a thing in this world where not everything is digital and virtual and everything else. You know, it's an actual thing. So.
No question. Well, Kenneth, can't thank you enough for the time, my friend. Best of luck with the album. It is absolutely tremendous, and I can't say that enough. It's called Keys to the Kingdom. It's out today, the 25th. It's out. It's on. Thank you so much, sir. I hope to see you out there, out in the stratosphere, out there somewhere at a nice rockin' festival, man. I will definitely be out and about, hopefully traveling around this summer. Hope to see you, my friend.
Dude, absolutely. If you get down this way or in California, let me know. We'll go to a football game.
Oh man, I'm definitely down for the Motley Crue stadium tour in August. So I'm definitely coming to that. I'll be there.
That'd be awesome, man. I'd love to do that, man.
All right, brother. Thanks so much.
A lot, man.